All right, we're live. Welcome to the Beacon Roundtable. Got the Beacon crew here with great news from this week. I mean, I just wanted to open with Jangle's exquisite lighting. He looks very well lit today, I must
Thank
say.
you.
Look super lit, sir, I guess is how the kids would say. I'm not
Dummy
one of
lit
those.
is probably what the kids would say.
What
Not
is it?
Liddy
What did
AF?
you say?
Dummy lit. Liddy AF. I mean,
Dummy
that's
lit.
like, yeah, that'd be like, what's that meme? Like, hello, fellow kids with the who's that actor? I forget his name. Anyway, yeah. No, yeah, I'd go with dummy lit. That'd probably be the most timely.
So that's kind of like, is that how like in the olden days, if something was bad, it's good, but now you're like dummy lit, like you're like it's just a no brainer how good you're lit? Is that like a weird?
I don't know.
English,
I'm
man.
not familiar with that concept of something being so bad that it's good.
We may have to get a younger Zoomer on the show to ask these questions. Jangle might be starting to get a little too old.
Yeah, I'm really like pretty much a zillennial or whatever. Like I'm right in the middle.
That's a thing.
I mean,
Millennial?
I put it in air quotes, but that
Okay.
is, I mean, it's not really a thing, but it's, it's in the parlance.
I'm not gonna spend too much time going about that because that's just gonna lead to weird places. But like how if there is a person who's attractive, they're a baddie.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that.
I'm
familiar with something being so good that it's bad.
Exactly.
But not so bad that it's good.
And everything that is good is bad for you.
Or maybe it's sick,
Exactly. There we go. There's another one. If it's sick, right?
I've missed these
we use these terms in onchain all the time.
Yeah. Good thing we saved this this for the intro. I'm sure it's great for our retention in the first 2 minutes.
Welcome to all of you who are joining us on both YouTube and Twitch today. You're going to get an interesting look today. On the docket today, we'll be talking about stablecoins. We do have a Fed meeting that happens today. We'll talk a little bit about that, and then we'll kind of look at real world assets. So two major narratives right now in the on-chain space. There's a lot going on, and if you are someone who is looking for the juiciest of yields, you can still find them, but it won't be in stable coins and it won't be in real world assets. These are obviously part of what is the next billion trillion in institutional or just regular retail on-chain finance going to look like. And this is from earlier this year when we were at Denver. We saw a lot of what's going to bring the next billion people into DeFi. So we'll kind of look at some of these. Is this what's going to bring people on? Obviously, people are flocking to chains like Coinbase's Base, and there are other chains that are starting to appear. When it comes to the news for today, we talked about this a month ago, right? The next chapter for USDC. Coinbase took a big stake in Circle. They were together building USDC as part of this consortium for Circle, and that's gone. It's all in-house now under Coinbase. That was big news, mainly because Circle was
I don't think it's all under Coinbase. I think Coinbase just like purchased some Circle, right? Like they just own some Circle.
They took a big stake,
position.
Correct?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they took a big stake, and basically all development for USDC is coming in-house under the umbrella. So they did have separate space for just for USDC, and now it's all under the Coinbase umbrella. So what was interesting at the time is that Circle was planning on expanding to 6 new blockchains. So native USDC, not the type that you can bridge over that's wrapped, that has good utility, but directly from Circle is going to be rolled out. And now with their CCTP, the cross-chain transfer protocol, you can actually take native USDC that can be redeemed on Circle 1-to-1 and just transfer it quickly across to other blockchains in the And it turns out not just the Ethereum virtual machine, the EVM space. We're talking about non-Ethereum blockchains as well. So we're talking about Solana. In fact, I'll bring up the whole list of what they are. And this is actually on their website. You can see all the chains, good and bad, Algorand. Good to see you, Algorand. Probably the only time we'll probably talk
Hey,
about Algorand ever.
Algorand.
Hey,
Another
know,
moment in the
right?
sun.
I know.
Pumping Gary Gensler's bags just one
There we
last
go.
time.
But Arbitrum, the ones that stand out to me, Flow and Hedera, and then Near, Polkadot, Stellar, and then of course Tron, because you got to counter program USDT in some way, right? The ones that are the most interesting, and this is the ones that have just come out in the last week, are going to be Noble, Near, and Polkadot. And that's just from the last week. Base already happened 2 weeks ago. So the reason why this is important, and this is on Noble. Noble is a token issuing app chain on the Cosmos IBC ecosystem of chains. Dozens of chains make up Cosmos now. Having an app chain, which is Noble, they're a token issuance chain to partner with, like Injective, Osmosis, those dexes, and then you have Axelar, which is basically the bridge chain, if you want to call it that. Now USDC natively is available to every single one of the blockchains that are available under the Cosmos IBC in one fell swoop because they're partnered with Noble. Near, and I'll tell one, they have an EVM facing chain called Aurora. What's good about Near is that they're touted for their security and some of the more interesting ideas coming up with the newest update to Ethereum. Like they've already had the sharding system on Near for quite some time. So having native USDC there will also be good in bringing liquidity into new places. Then, of course, for Polkadot, they have an a group of EVM facing chains with all of specifically with Moonbeam, with A-Star, with Moonbeam, Moonriver, and A-Star. Now having native USDC able to be bridged to all of these chains and moving it around with CCTP, huge. It's gonna bring a lot of good stablecoin liquidity to a bunch of different places. Thoughts, gentlemen, while I try and silence my cat.
Sick, bro. No, it's great. It's a full circle to our intro. It's bad, right? Some would say. No, it's great. I personally, USDC is the only fiat-backed stablecoin that I really use, right? I mean, it's that and Tether really are the big ones, and I still am kind of afraid of Tether, especially with everything going on with Binance, all the major movements of Tether that have been happening in Binance wallets and on Tron, and the whole Justin Sun, Tron, Binance, CZ thing, SEC, Department of Justice. Like, I don't know. It's just like a black box that, I don't want to be a Tether truther. I don't want to be that guy, but I am not comfortable with exposure to it. I'm a U.S. citizen, right? I can hold regular old dollars pretty easily. So no need to be in that mess in my eyes as a U.S. Person who is not worried about being attacked by the government. But yeah, so USDC is my stablecoin of choice, that or like, LUSD or some of the decentralized ones on chain. And it's good to see that you can natively move it around without being exposed to bridge risk, right? I mean, if you go to rec.news /leaderboard, that is the leaderboard of all of the major hacks from DeFi that we've seen over the last few years, and all of the big ones. I think like every single one in the top 5, almost every single one in the top 10, they're bridge hacks. So basically what this does is it allows you to take native USDC on one chain and then redeem it with Circle or Coinbase, and then they mint native USDC on another chain. So you can hold USDC on all these chains without ever being exposed to these major honeypots that are bridges. And that's a good thing. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And I have a video, on this that we have, for our members specifically for, why they built CCTP. And I think the great thing about it is, and a compelling case is that you can actually transfer that money, practically what they're calling teleporting that money, in minutes, as opposed to, sending it to a bridge and hoping within minutes, sometimes up to hours, or even in the olden days, days. Never, anyone ever used the plasma bridge, but way back in the day, uh, to get that money from one place to another. Um, yeah, it's a great way to transport money, and USDC being the market cap leader that they are. Um, it's good to see more of these technologies come forth, because the adoption like this is what's going to help bring USDC to the forefront. Integrating it with Visa and all of these other settlement payments systems as well. The more USDC that's available and easy for people to get, the better. So, if you're one of these people on who are big on like things like Hedera, uh, or I've never used Flow, but Stellar Lumens, like Stellar, for example, they try and
Let's be
target
real.
the
You're
unbanked.
probably not. You're probably not any of those on any of these blockchains. I have no idea why USDC is wanting to be on all these like long tail chains. Like, to be honest, has anybody heard of Noble? Like, are you? Maybe I'm outing myself here as like a noob, right? But like, I
You
don't
are.
even know if I've heard of Noble. Like, I mean, yeah, Stellar. Cool. Is anybody on Stellar? Does anybody own any what is it, XLM, or no, not
I
XLM,
do have
whatever.
XML. I don't have
I
a
mean,
very
some
large
people
bag
do.
of XLM.
I think I have some that Coinbase gave me for free, and I've just held
That's
it
where I got my
into
first
the
bag, answering the questions.
It
But
is
I
very
guess it makes
interesting
sense. Go ahead.
just to see the total value on all of these chains. Just seeing Ethereum sitting at 24 billion and all the other chains are kind of irrelevant. So yeah, it is a bit strange to see them deploying on so many of these layer twos and alternative chains. Especially, I mean, they may have only recently introduced these, but there's so little total value on these chains in USDC. It's just strange to see.
But a counter argument would be, hey, look at Tron. Like, the amount of dollar liabilities, right? USDT being settled on Tron is nuts, right? I mean, the amount of stablecoin volume on Tron alone eclipses the amount of volume that's occurring on the Bitcoin network. Like, it is absurd, right? So, um, and then you look at something like Stellar. I don't know how distributed the validator network is, but I know that it's like a similar high throughput chain that, perhaps if, it would be better for, people around the world to be transacting with USDC on Stellar than it is Tether on Tron. Perhaps that would be a more favorable way for things to settle out. But yeah, no, there's obviously not a lot of liquidity on a lot of these chains.
Sorry to cover your face there, Andrew, but Dan brings up that Flow does some of the NFT collectibles like NBA Top Shot, so that makes sense. Um, Interestingly enough, Base is huge up there, and Avalanche was one of the first blockchains that CCTP came to. So I think these numbers will change as CCTP starts to come to fruition, because you're going to see more of this money moving around, right? Um, yeah, I've seen some initial pools already on different chains. So Noble is an app chain in the Cosmos ecosystem. So it's really just it's actually a token issuing app chain. So that's the main reason why they've partnered with Circle in this case, because that's really their only, as you know, in Cosmos, most of these chains, much like in Polkadot, they're parachains in a way. They're there for specific purpose, as opposed to being one blockchain that has a bunch of protocols. Most of these are smaller blockchains that literally have one or two protocols that do one thing really well, and they use their interchain accounts and their interchain security from Neutron or whatever they're using to make all of that happen. So just it being available, I've already seen some interesting pools like on Kujira and on Injective already for native USDC that look pretty interesting. Uh, there's going to be a lot of the same stuff. Again, it's not the same as being on Ethereum, obviously. That's where most of the eyeballs are. But there's a lot of innovation happening on these smaller chains that, for money that goes there, could be pretty good. Specifically on some of these smaller chains that are more institutional friendly, so there's more controls, less decentralization. Having USDC native on there will be important to making sure that the system, I think, flows well in terms of all the cogs that are there. Okay. Back to the four of us for right now. What I did want to say is that there is a coin that's a stable coin that has big news that, frankly, didn't do nearly as well as we thought. And I know that Jangle, I just want to get Jangles. Everyone ready? Everyone get ready for the FUD. I want everyone to, because Jangle's going to unleash some stuff here for a couple minutes.
I have no idea what's coming up.
Oh, I think you do know what's coming up. Is that so far in the first month, and we did talk a bit about PayPal and PYUSD and how they have hundreds of millions of customers there. And the first report from Paxos said that there's roughly about 44 million in market cap after 1 month. To compare that to USDC and USDT, which have a combined market cap of roughly 110 billion, this is a very, very small fraction of that market. So, ultimately, it just means that there's fairly sluggish demand. In fact, here's an article here that I was reading about, why is it struggling a month after launch?
I can tell you.
Go ahead. This is where Jangle comes in.
Because there are no DeFi integrations. Like, what can I use PYUSD for?
That's a great question.
Send money on PayPal.
Like, I really don't know. Like, maybe I just should look into it more, right? But like, I have no reason to, because if I wanted a centralized fiat-backed stablecoin, I would use USDC, and maybe like PYUSD figures out some way to like capture some market share. But I haven't looked at the token contract code. I don't know. Like, obviously they don't have the cross-chain transfer protocol that Circle has, which is like awesome, right? That is like a really good UX. Now, like, honestly, it might just be the preferred way in general to bridge. Like, if you've just got, stable coins on any chain, like, you'd probably be better off holding USDC natively on that chain. And if you want to go to another chain, using CCTP. So, like, why does PYUSD exist? I don't know. There's a lot of other stable coins in the space that are, optimizing for other outcomes, such as decentralization or passing on yield to stablecoin holders. So those, I think, are intellectually interesting, might be able to capture some market share if they get Lindy and do their thing. PYUSD is not doing any of that. It just seems like such a half-baked attempt at, hey, we should have a stablecoin. Shit, like, let's launch one, So I don't know. It seems like, I don't know. It's kind of cringe.
And frankly, I don't know if we are the target demographic for PYUSD anyway, to be honest. I don't think any of our members are. But I did put a question, in the chat, like, if you or anyone has done a transaction or even looked into PYUSD, I don't know, put a 1 or something like that, because I'm curious to know. Not a lot of marketing, in my personal opinion. Maybe that's half the problem. Maybe they're too worried about U.S. legislation with regards to stablecoins as well. I was reading another article where Maxine Waters, the touted quote unquote friend of crypto, that's not true, has said that they should have just waited. Had they'd waited for better stablecoin regulation, they could have had a much bigger splash. And I can't say that she's wrong with that take, to be quite honest. This is I was expecting more, to be honest, because it was, they were supposed to make some changes. I mean, this was supposed to, in a way, be a bellwether for Congress to get off their ass and start doing some stablecoin regs, right? Because this is one of the largest e-commerce builders in the world, and for them to have a stablecoin to compete with some of the others that are out there. And none of these are technically since it's with Paxos, so I guess it's US based, but not a good sign. If only 44 million MC after a month with regards to at least what this should have been.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think it should have been anything. Like, I really don't see any reason to hold this stablecoin right now when you could just hold USDC. USDC is much more liquid on chain. It's native on all those chains listed now. It has a dope transfer protocol that allows you to hold native USDC wherever you go. And all the volume is with USDC and Tether pairs, right? So there's just no reason to hold the stablecoin. It doesn't kick back any yield. Like, of course, like the market, it's surprising the market cap's not zero, right? So, that's where it's probably going to go, and unless it has some sort of differentiator. It's not like crypto native people like, oh, PayPal, awesome. Like, I want to just hold my capital in their stablecoin for no reason. Like, no, it's not liquid on chain compared to the other major stablecoins, and there's no volume through the pairs. So, maybe they'll do something in the future. No beef with PayPal. Obviously, I have bag bias as a coin holder, so there's that.
There is that. Interesting enough, the NYDFS, they added PYUSD to its green list of approved digital assets while removing Litecoin, Dogecoin, and Harry Potter, Pac-Man, Obama, 8-Man, Eat 80, Sonic 10. So no XRP on that list. That popped me pretty good. That's pretty good. Oh, poor Harry, Pac-Man, Obama, Pop, Sonic 8-Man, he knew.
It's interesting. Like, those are all chains that are payments chains, right?
Yeah, it's just obviously payment infrastructure, right?
Not a lot of people are using any Litecoin, Dogecoin, or Ripple networks to actually do payments, because I think the jury is in, right? If people want to do payments, they want to do it with something stable, right? They want a stable medium of exchange. They want to do payments with dollars. That's what people want, right? They don't want to do payments with XRP, right? They don't want, that's not going to be the settlement piece, right? But, if there is a stable coin on the network, then it can be a payments network. It can be a settlement network, even if it's a sketchy network and a sketchy stable coin like Tron and USDT are dominating volume wise and use wise. So, it's interesting, but we'll keep an eye on it. I don't think we need to spend too much more time on it. Maybe check in every couple months on PYUSD's relevance.
Gabe, you're not in the United States. Out there, what is the stable coin of choice, if there is one, with regards to what people are doing?
I'm still mainly with Jangle here. I'm just using USDC if I have a choice. I also try to stay away from Tether unless there's good yield options. I'm not that worried about it short term, but like you said, it is a bit of a black box. The only other one that I would use is probably DAI, which I also feel fairly comfortable with.
That's a good point. And for guys who don't know, meme of the year, by the way, is Gabe doesn't lose. So just follow him. You should be good to go. Andrew, sir, you had a question.
I can confirm that is not true, by the way, just for reference. But yeah.
In fact, I was rugged just earlier today.
The man had birds of prey at his ceremony the other day. To me, that's a winner move right there.
So I had a question on CCIP.
What'd you say?
Go ahead, Gabe.
No, you go ahead.
Yeah, so I had a question on CCIP.
CCTP or CCIP?
CCIP, the opening topic.
Not to be confused with Xi Jinping CCP.
Is it not CCIP?
No, CCIP is different. That's cross-chain interoperable protocol. That's a chain link thing.
Okay, geez. What's
it's
the coin?
Tough.
What's the USDC
CCTP
thing again?
is cross-chain transfer protocol.
Okay. Well, that's what I question about, not the chain link thing.
Okay.
So this is just a bridge that isn't a bridge, and like the high level takeaway is that this is the safest place to move USDC.
Yeah, it's a bridge where
between Ethereum and Arbitrum, I should use
Yeah, yeah, and you can just now hold native USDC on all these chains, right? So it's a bridge where the relayer is also the issuer of the asset being bridged. So there's not this big honeypot on one side on the source chain where all the assets are locked up, and it's like a giant honeypot for attackers to target, right? So there's just of goodies in a smart contract waiting to be attacked, because the relayer for the bridge is the same person who's able to mint and burn the native assets that are being bridged.
So is the smart thing to do here is just stop using any other bridge or
Nope.
any bridge for moving
So what
USDC?
about CCTP is there's not an actual, there is technically a front end UI, but it's meant to be extensible. It's meant so that anyone with a couple lines of code can integrate CCTP into their bridge. And there are multiple bridges that have it now. So I was using Bungee. I'm sorry, but well, you can use Bungee, but I was using Jumper from Lie.fi, Synapse, Cbridge, Across, onchain, a whole bunch of them. As long as they can offer native USDC in their assets to bridge, then they are using CCTP. So it's actually
Yeah.
it's a protocol that's meant to be interoperable and also lightweight that anyone can actually put into their front end.
Great point. And I'd like to also point out that even in general, the dangerous part about using a bridge is typically not using the bridge, right? It's not the moment where you actually bridge. The dangerous part about using a bridge is just holding non-native assets. It's having wrapped assets where you are basically issued a wrapped token on the destination chain, but the real asset is on the source chain locked up in a smart contract. And then as the destination chain grows in TVL, that bridge contract on the source chain gets more and more funds in it, becomes a bigger and bigger target, which is why you see the largest attacks in DeFi are typically bridge hacks. And also, fun fact, I heard this from the Jeremy, I forget his last name, the guy who does, from Circle. The most hacked asset in bridge hacks is USDC. USDC is like the most bridged asset, and therefore the most funds have been lost from bridge hacks. So now there's no reason to hold USDC, these giant reservoirs of USDC in bridge contracts on source chains, right? Because there's a native way to like dynamically burn it and then remint it as capital flows instead of just doing this old method of bridging. Yeah, which is obviously very insecure, as we've learned over the past couple of years.
So
yeah,
I'm
what I
just
like
trying to
about
ask,
it too. Go ahead.
I'm just trying to ask this question as, as an active market participant, and for our listeners, if we have any listeners that are a little bit less tech savvy and are trying to figure out why this matters to them, why it matters to me. So I bridge things, right? I usually use Stargate or Hopper. Those are kind of my bridges of choice right now. Is this change like changing anything with what my user flow should be? And what I'm hearing is no.
Probably not, honestly. Like, just whenever you are holding USDC, just like make sure it's native USDC, which over the coming months should just be on all these chains, at least, like the only type of USDC that's like liquid and traded, right? So I would assume like over time, the wrapped USDC just starts to fade. Yeah, but maybe that didn't happen very fast on Avalanche. I remember
it still hasn't.
ago. Yeah. So yeah, Chris, is that changing?
No, and in fact, the majority of the chains that have, wrapped non-native USDC, have taken the, the initiative to rename their assets as not USDC. So you have on Optimism, on Avalanche, on Arbitrum, it's now called USDC.E, which means it's been bridged from Ethereum. That means it's non-native. And then on Base, it's called USDBC because it's from Coinbase. So yeah, it's I like it because it's fast, it's cheap, and you have native USDC that you can redeem at Circle. That's essentially the point, right? So if you're in the event that you need to offload, you can do so at Circle with a Circle account, 1-to-1. Whereas, you know, may not be as easy to offload if you're using, you know, wrapped assets, having to deal with slippage, that type of thing. So I will say that the couple of times I've done it already using CCTP, and there's a bunch of different bridges that do it out there, and cross-chain swaps, very easy process, very simple, very fast. So yeah, I definitely recommend it. I mean, I'm one person that prefers to bridge stable coins only. If you follow us in our mastermind, I'm a big proponent of bridging stable coins because you have the least amount of slippage and there's the deepest liquidity in that route. So this just makes that process even easier because what's great about, then again, going back to the weeds just for a quick second, they have what's called an attestation service, which is a bit of a validator. It's off chain. So it makes it so you're actually, developers are just calling to make sure that, you know, this is that they can attest that this is correctly happening from one chain to another with the mint and lock bridge mechanism. So really easy. I recommend everybody use it. For anybody who's in, you know, membership that gets to see the video, or anyone who checks out, you know, our upcoming playbook, definitely check out using a bridge that uses CCTP. Very easy USDC experience.
So, Chris, you mean you don't
Yes.
bridge Ethereum, which is the real stablecoin of DeFi?
You do. I'm not going to say you don't. Go ahead,
And
Daniel.
I have to say, like, this is not really DeFi, right? Like, this is why,
No.
you know, there's, I think, a rebranding occurring to like on-chain finance. Like, this is finance that is happening on-chain, but it's not DeFi because you're very much trusting Circle. Circle is the, and Coinbase, you know, whoever's issuing USDC to be the, you know, arbiter of the supply and minting and burning it, reissuing it on different chains. You know, all that infrastructure is being handled by Circle. So you fundamentally have to trust Circle, which I think is fine because our current financial system, which works well for people in the US, generally speaking, you have to trust tons of intermediaries all the time to do anything. And Circle and Coinbase are both highly regulated and US based, audited by large respected third-party audit firms. So like they are the most compliant and the most sort of like TradFi-esque entities in the industry. But it is worth noting that it is on-chain finance, but it's not necessarily decentralized finance because decentralization is on a spectrum and they're much closer to the trusted and centralized side of that spectrum. That being said, USDC is still generally my stablecoin of choice, but there are other much more decentralized stablecoins like LUSD. It's probably the most popular. So
I thought you were going to say
Yeah.
MIM.
I do think the shift we're seeing into more of these kinds of assets like USDC as well, being a bit more centralized, is due to all these hacks, that especially the bridge hacks that we're seeing. It's like you said, when you do bridge and when you're interacting with non-native assets on various chains, all of those funds are sitting in a smart contract somewhere, and that contract is interacting, or people are able to interact with it because you have to be able to use it to bridge funds and things like that. But those funds are just sitting there in perpetuity, and as the total value that's sitting in that contract grows, it's just more and more incentive for people with malicious intent to go after it and try and figure out a way to get to it. And that is an issue that we will have to solve before we see significant funds deployed into DeFi, I think.
Yeah. So to answer Steve's question, just wanted to, you know, kind of just highlight with what Andrew mentioned between CCTP and CCIP. Yeah, CCIP does work for any coin that, I guess, they have an Oracle pricing for, maybe. I mean, it's open to any developer with CCIP, and they have the Oracle prices with the smart contracts built into the flow. So yeah, CCTP is specifically for native USDC at this time. That doesn't mean they could. They also have the Euro coin as well. So that CCTP at some point could be, you know, specifically fashioned for that. In fact, that'd probably be pretty interesting if they did do that. But yeah, obviously it's not very decentralized, but at a time where security is at a premium, I don't know. Kind of gotta pick your battles here, but I'm good with very fast transfers.
Yeah, and CCIP, they're not necessarily, Chainlink doesn't control the issuance of every token, right? Every asset, every digital asset. So Circle and Coinbase, they do control USDC, at least like they're able to redeem it and like burn it, right? And mint more USDC, right? So they're able to redeem it on one chain, burn it, destroy those tokens, and then issue new tokens on another chain so you can have those native tokens. Whereas like Chainlink CCIP is fairly complex, but I'm pretty sure it's just like a cross-chain messaging protocol and is not necessarily able to, take one token and make it native on every chain. But maybe it can. I'm honestly not sure. It's kind of big brained.
Yeah. Did I answer your question, Andrew?
Yeah, I shouldn't change anything.
Yeah. But just making sure as an active market participant
Yeah,
that you feel that your fears are allayed with CCTV.
I didn't have any fears, and now I still don't have any.
That's good.
I have a fear. My one major fear is that we have over 20 people watching the stream live and less than 10 likes. So that sends me into a night terror.
That's a top tier segue, bro. I like that.
So hit the like button. Make sure you're subscribed. If you're not, appreciate it.
Yeah, and also, if you're not a subscriber, do click the bell so you know that when we do go live, it'll show up in your notifications. We do this show every Wednesday, as we call it, not Wednesday, because we win. Well, we win every day, but specifically on Wednesday, we do this every Wednesday. We have since the beginning of 2022. Before then, actually, now I think about it, I think we're almost to our 110th episode, technically. But
are we going to upload the backlog to YouTube ever? Probably not.
I don't know if we want to do that.
I don't know if everybody wants to see all those.
Yeah, I don't know if we want to do all that, but anyway, yeah, definitely good. If you're not a subscriber, give us a subscribe. We're putting out more content. Hopefully, this is all stuff you're finding good value in, and that's really our job.
Got to keep it moving. You can't keep the like and subscribe going for too long. It drops our. We're already losing people. It's got to be quick. Got to pop and then move on.
Well, let's talk about something. Let's talk about a stable coin that's getting 5% APY. Yeah, that's not a T-bill. How do you feel about that?
Oh, I know what it is. I know what it is.
Do you?
Oh, I don't. Okay, never mind. I thought it was going to be USDC on Coinbase. Yo, you could just deposit USDC on Coinbase and make 5%. You know that?
I mean, I will say that on Kujira, on their liquidity bow, you can get that it opened for USDC USK, which is their collateralized Atom stablecoin for 109%. But that's neither here nor here. But here at 5%, we have Mountain Protocol. So what I know the question people are wondering is, what is Mountain Protocol? Well, this is USDM, and here's the interesting part about USDM. It's not open to US persons, shocker, but it is the first nationally regulated yield-bearing stablecoin. And why is that? Well, I'm glad you asked. First of all, it's backed by Castle Island and Coinbase. It is permissionless and composable, and basically it is a stablecoin that is backed to short-term US T-bills or treasuries, however you want to talk it. Basically, it is a rebasing interest-bearing stablecoin, and ultimately, no idea what blockchain this is coming to, but this is something that I found a couple days ago. Interesting idea. Again, real-world assets, they're so hot right now. This is certainly one of them. So, it's one thing for it to be someone like Ondo or some of these online mainnet protocols that are doing T-bills, because there's roughly about, I think, 9 of them now. We've gone over them before in a previous call, but this is one that's backed by some pretty big people. So, what do y'all think?
It's I don't know about this specific project, but it is an interesting trend to see treasury yields kind of transition on chain now. It's something we've seen. There's a couple of different protocols trying to incorporate treasury yields, especially when they're so high. Yeah, there's a lot of these types of things launching. Like Jangle said, if I can deposit USDC on Coinbase and get the same 5%, I'm not sure why I would want to deploy into something like this. But yeah, it's good for the rest of the world to be able to get those treasury yields.
And I
Do you
think
have
that's
to
really
stake
the
it to get
demographic.
5%? Is there like an interest bearing version of this? Like, is it
I'm
the
assuming
benefit
you
would
hold it.
be the benefit would be that you have the interest bearing token, and then you're also able to utilize that elsewhere in DeFi. Like, I can't put my Coinbase deposited USDC on Aave. I can put my SDAI, right? I can put my staked DAI, which is earning 5%. I can put that on Aave. I can pair it with other assets. So my stablecoin in my liquidity pool is an interest-bearing stablecoin in and of itself, boosting all the yield I get on it, buying it like an additional 5%. So that would be the benefit, right, of like an on-chain tokenized T-bill yield. Right now, I think DAI is leading, but I would assume that that maybe Mountain Protocol, their differentiator is that they are, backed by these, reputable sort of VCs and everything that they're able to get, a legal standard that protects token holders in the event of any funny business. There's sort of like the legal rights to the backing are maybe held by token holders, which, in the US at least, there's very little legal framework for that. So maybe they're really trying to push the envelope on that.
My guess is they're going to be putting it in with big boys like Aave, maybe Maker, probably not Balancer right now. Don't use Balancer, by the way. Little segue. They've even said they're getting a front end DNS attack, so don't use them until they
always know what you
Specifically,
signed.
If you do have funds on Balancer, don't run and try and take them out. That would be the bad thing to do. You should not interact with the front end at all. If you have funds in Balancer, just leave it there. Don't touch it.
Yep.
Smart contracts are safe. Smart contracts are safe. Front end is compromised. So every time you interact with any transaction, you need to look at what you're signing and the smart contract you're interacting with and make sure that you're not interacting with a malicious smart contract. Even if you have the website bookmarked, always check each individual signature, unless you're just on some wallet that you don't care about. And if it gets drained, it's no big deal. If you're dealing with funds that you care about, you need to check every single transaction, even if you have the site bookmarked.
Even if.
It is interesting, just on the same topic here. A lot of these new projects and platforms that are coming out promising 5% APY. They are all like backstopped by the treasury yields, and the treasury yields are variable. So if that yield dropped below the 5% in the future, they may not be able to provide that anymore, which would potentially cause issues.
It's a little fine print here, but it does say previous day APY, by the way.
Yeah, the yields on treasuries are not variable if you hold it to maturity, right? Like if you are like the yield is variable, like the 10-year yield varies based on the free market, right? And the demand for that T-bill, or that bond. But if you're buying like a 30-day treasury and you're holding it for 30 days and you're just laddering those, right? Then there's not a lot of variability. It's just the variability is just what does the Federal Reserve do? But they move pretty slow. Even during the last year or two where they've changed rates at like an unprecedented rate that we've never seen in history, it's still in the scope of DeFi, like where yields are bouncing around all the time, it's still like glacially slow, right?
I know you like this, Andrew. Go ahead.
For most of these protocols, looking at the asset breakdowns, most of it is short-term treasuries.
Yes.
So it could potentially have an impact over a period of time.
But I was going to say, Andrew, you're going to like this because they actually sought out an audit from Open Zeppelin, which if you're looking for an auditor, you can't go much worse than Open Zeppelin in terms of, going straight for the tippy top. So,
Oh man.
Worse? I mean, it's good. It's good. Open Zeppelin's great.
no, I know that's like God tier auditing right there. It's like,
Okay.
yeah,
I
that's
thought
what
you
meant.
I
I
thought you
meant-
were about to get us canceled by Open Zeppelin. I don't know.
No,
No, they
I
like
mean,
wrote half the libraries everybody uses. They're great.
exactly. I mean, that's an amazing idea. I'm like, Open Zeppelin could make some serious money right now. If they're like, hey, because I mean, people are paying tens of thousands of dollars for some of these, tier 2 auditors that are, not catching things that ChatGPT can catch in literally seconds. But I'm pretty sure Open Zeppelin will. That's just
We're not
my
sponsored
personal-
by Open Zeppelin as of yet.
No, we're not.
Putting that out there.
Let me make that completely clear. Would I be open to a sponsorship or a partnership with Open Zeppelin? You damn right we are.
I don't
So
know.
if you're
I don't know.
seeing
Maybe
this.
maybe not. We currently have no sponsors. We are not paid by anybody to talk about any projects, and maybe we will probably keep it that way. I don't know. We will always let you know if we take money from a project.
Yes, of course.
We have not ever done that in history.
We have not.
So
No. Thank you for clarifying that. But what we will do is be very curious about today's market, because today there is a Fed meeting. I believe in about 14 minutes we should know exactly what's going to happen. Most likely, let me go to this one.
man, I was really enjoying not talking about the Federal Reserve for a while. Like, it's crypto winter when everybody goes from like talking about macro to just like apathetic. It's like, let it happen.
I just want to say, look at Leah, look at that scarf tie right there. That is dope. I like that look. I wouldn't wear that personally.
I don't
I
know.
get claustrophobic, but I personally like that.
That looks like
for anyone,
risky. I would be afraid to wear that. Like, it would probably be like, what if you were attacked and you've got this scarf around your neck?
I was thinking on a windy day that thing flies behind. Yeah. Anyway,
it looks kind of reckless, to be honest. Like, it drastically lowers your attack readiness.
Suddenly
so now I
we're
know that you guys hate scarves. Got it.
No,
I don't hate scarves. It's just probably best if you are wearing this giant thing around your neck to position it in a way so that if it is grabbed, it would just disengage from your neck and you would not be.
You getting grabbed a lot, Jangle? You hadn't grabbed recently?
Always ready. It can't be caught lacking with a scarf.
Thank you, Tanner. An hour and 14 minutes from now for anybody who's keeping track. But I mean, I guess it's more like Fred from Scooby-Doo, right?
The same thing could maybe be said about ties, though.
Yeah, probably.
Unless you're wearing a clip-on, which is the only argument for clip-on ties.
Or a dickie. One of the two. Anyway, it looks like they're going to stay flat. Which, it's good because they've been, doing a lot of QT and a lot of hiking and trying to curb inflation. A flat market is probably fairly bullish for Bitcoin. What do you think, Gabe, as our macro SME?
I
having
think
a flat movement here.
I think it's very likely to stay flat during this meeting. Not completely sure about the rest of the year. I think one further rate hike this year is fairly likely. But yeah, I don't expect big volatility from this. I think they're going to go with the expected decision, and I'm not expecting to see any major market moves off that news.
Yeah, one thing that's interesting though is that in the wake of having a flat market, and then the idea that they will do one more rate hike, I believe to help curb against other types of rising costs, like oil is going back up, but the other thing is that there could be a U.S. government shutdown by the end of this month. There is, I mean, how many times will we kick this can down the road, Andrew? It's just something that it will probably, of course, be fixed. 15 minutes before midnight, like literally 11th hour type of stuff. But there's a bit of infighting within the Republican, branch of the legislature here. trying to, come to, well, not come to arms, but it's a bad thing to say, come to agreement on what should be happening here. So I don't know, Andrew, what are your thoughts on this?
Debt
Well,
ceiling
here we
debate
go
continued.
again. The same but different. Yeah, I think this is just American politics these days.
Mhm.
I don't want to get too like into the technicals or the discussion about what's the difference between a government shutdown and what's the difference between a default. But to the best of my understanding, we are not talking about not paying debts right now. We could be in the future, but right now we're just talking about the possibility of a government shutdown. And in recent history, government shutdowns have really not impacted the markets very much. Unless we start talking about credit rating downgrades again, I really wouldn't think it's that big of a deal. But, really at a high level, what's going on is the majority party in the U.S. House of Representatives has a pretty slim majority. And because of that slim majority, even a small breakaway group within that majority can lead to decisions not getting made. When the party in power has a larger majority, they can afford, more people to not go along with a vote and have it still get through. So, to me, this is, about finagling around, who's going to hold the speaker's gavel. It's finagling around, around budget, redoing the budget. But in the short term, I think the biggest impact is the possibility of the Fed not having all of the data it would like. Because in the event of a government shutdown, some of the unemployment data, many other other pieces of data that the Fed uses to make decisions would not be funded, because that would be part of the government piece that would be shut down. So, guesstimating even more, it seems likely that there wouldn't be any more rate increases while the government was shut down, because the Fed wouldn't really have any data to make any decisions on. But I also I don't think this is going to cause a market panic. We've been through this so many times, and this is not directly going to result in the government not paying its debt and defaulting and having a bunch of credit rating changes. So for now, it's just another day in the life of the American political drama.
I think it's wild, to be honest, that the Fed doesn't have their own dashboards on something like this. Like, they have to rely on the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. And they're like, no, we're shut down. We're not going to give you that data. It's like, do they not have their own statistics and analytics department? It's just wild to me that they have to rely on data from, other. I mean, and that's fine, because obviously that's not their specialty. They may have something that may not tell the entire story, but still, that just seems wild.
Well, government bureaucracy is very interdependent.
This is true. This is true. I mean, when you have a $600 toilet.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that, but I do know that as a data guy, the Bureau of Labor Statistics does some really cool data.
That they do. So,
Right up there
ultimately,
with the Census Bureau in my book.
I agree. And I want to give a quick shout out to anyone who volunteers or works for the census every 10 years. Thank you for counting. We can count on you counting. All right. Dead joke. All right. Anyway. Yeah, so there's that. I think we'll be just fine. I think the issue will probably be, is this going to be priced in, right? Volatility wise. And we'll see.
My vote's yes. I don't think this is big enough to really surprise anybody.
No, not if you're a U.S. investor. You're like, okay, this is,
It's all
are there
priced in.
hurricanes every year? It's all priced in.
Everything. Markets are perfectly efficient.
Fair enough.
Just kidding. Unless,
Well, I mean, they'll be efficient when they come when they're backed by blockchain tech, don't you think?
I don't know. I think that the crypto markets are probably some of the most inefficient markets. If there are inefficient markets, it's this one, baby. That's why we're here for the alpha. Hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribed. Notification bell. Dink.
No need to subscribe to a sound library. We have Jangle to provide all the sounds that you need for your video.
Raise a glass for inefficient markets, boys. Where there's inefficiency, there's money.
I don't know if we need to hire an editor. We do need to hire an editor, but those noises, the ding, they're really like, it's difficult, man. Getting those in there.
Oh, yeah.
All the way. I mean, it's a whole process. I don't know if you guys have ever tried to do that. It's like,
oh, believe me, I've got 3
say it live.
terabytes of sounds.
Jangle's been doing some editing recently, I take it.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, go watch our latest video. And Jangle was in Austin last week for Permissionless, and he interviewed a lovely friend of the channel. That would be Guillaume Lambert from Penoptic. If you're interested in the new wave of concentrated liquidity and how you can put that to your advantage through LP plays using concentrated liquidity, definitely check it out. I mean,
it's his project
James.
Penoptic. It's his project Penoptic. They're a on-chain perp protocol based on V3, and so V3 liquidity providers be able to get an additional source of yield and manage their risk a little bit better and customize their payoff criteria a little bit better, and then traders get on-chain perps for any asset that is on V3, which is like every token on most relevant blockchains. So check it out if you want to learn more. It's I'll link it in chat here, and it'll be in the description of the recording if you're watching this recording.
Yeah, we've talked about perps. We've talked about real world assets in the case of Mountain Protocol. I just wanted to ask the three of you: do you believe that RWAs are going to fuel the next trillion into crypto?
What do you mean by RWAs? I think that's the question.
Real world assets, tokenization of everything.
Is are stablecoins real world assets?
That's a good question. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the term real world assets a little bit overused because it's very broad. But yes, I suppose like stablecoins or fiat-backed stablecoins are the current primary use case of blockchains, right? Like that's it, man. That's it. Those tokenized dollars that are being settled on these networks, man. That's the killer use case right now. So yes, if we're including stable coins, that's probably the major use and the thing that is currently driving adoption. People have been talking about tokenized real estate for a long time. I don't want to count it out because it's failed for so long, right? That doesn't mean it can't succeed in the future. And then besides that, it doesn't just have to be real estate or T-bills or dollars. Like it can be other things, but I just don't see where the demand is for anything other than T-bill yields. Like, I don't think that the growth will be driven by necessarily just innovation for innovation's sake and like cool tech. The growth will be driven by where is the demand. And right now, the obvious demand is treasury bills, because you have a risk-free rate borrowing from the government that is like a significant percentage of the yield that you'd expect out of like the S&P 500 without the volatility, right? So like the yield you'd expect out of the S&P 500 over a longer period of time, right? Without the volatility. So there's demand to hold T-bills. And then not everybody has access to those. So there's demand to have them on chain. And then people also want to take their T-bill yields and use them with other financial applications instead of just holding their funds in a money market account or something like that. So I think that's where it's coming from right now. But if you look at the stablecoin market cap, it's still down, right? It's still down on during the bear market on the year and over the last like 365 days. So is that where it's all going to come from? I don't know. That's where a lot of it's probably going to come from in the short to medium term. We'll see what happens in the long term.
What about you, Gabe? What do you think about real world assets, their potential?
Yeah, kind of in Django's camp again here. There's a lot of hype and talk about real world assets lately, but it's a bit loose as to what it actually is talking about. If it is talking about stablecoins as well, then yeah, I think that's absolutely necessary for both the current state of crypto and the future. But yeah, it's hard to tell where all the hype is going to end up.
What about you, Andrew? What do you think?
Maybe. It really depends to me. Like it depends on which assets and if there's demand for them. I think that, some random country having adoption for it, and then everybody starts speculating the price of real estate in this one country that, has this framework for letting you trade and, own real estate on chain. Maybe. But it's really not something I've been really excited about. I don't think it's in the near term value proposition. I'm more interested in on-chain native assets personally.
Yeah, I'm
Bold.
kind of in that. What's that?
It's bold, right? Like if you're not bullish on tokenized dollars and tokenized T-bills in the short term, then I don't see what else.
To me, so that goes back to the definition. To me, that isn't a real world asset. T-bills and dollars are just made up government money. It's not a real world actual thing. It's not gold. It's not, it's not hard currency. It's magic government money to me. So yeah, I see it as like something that we need in the midterm, but the goal is still to replace it with something that's actually transparent that can actually do the job better.
Yeah, I philosophically agree, but practically, I don't think that's what's going to drive the first $1 trillion in like on-chain. Well, I guess we're already past $1 trillion market cap. So you say get us to $5 trillion or $10 trillion market cap for the industry. I don't think it's going to be, replacing the dollar, right? I think it's going to be increasing the efficiency of traditional financial infrastructure and reducing the amount of intermediaries and increasing transparency and interoperability with other, more transparent, more fundamentally sound financial services that anybody can access. And I think that people want to access financial services using dollars. So as much as I would like for ETH to be the world reserve currency, I don't think that's happening within the next, I don't think that you will have asset. You won't have foundations or pensions or yada yada like allocating to ETH and maybe not even Bitcoin, or excited to do that anytime soon in my eyes. But you will see asset managers, people like Fidelity. There's been a lot of like news about asset managers adopting the technology and even like payment infrastructure, obviously like PayPal and stuff. Those types of institutions wanting to drive efficiency by integrating blockchain settlement infrastructure and blockchain rails. But in terms of like pension funds wanting to just long spot ETH, like I just don't think that's where the next wave of adoption or legitimacy is coming from, right? It's in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think when you think about what could be a tokenized asset, and we've seen this, we've talked about previous things about Swift and Bank of England and some of these other systems that are coming to the forefront and could make a big splash institutionally. I think of things like real estate, T-bills, commodities, financial instruments, precious metals, things that could be advantageously put on blockchain rails, as you said, for supposed synthetic tokenization. Again, I think half of it is the idea of putting that there, and then finding solvent custodians to take care of that, because that's probably risk number one, counterparty risk, right? Making sure that that custodian of whatever pegged asset you're going to have is going to be around for a very long time and be solvent to be able to obviously provide that to you. So I think that's my internet, but regardless, Coinbase and Circle have led a new coalition for tokenized assets. This is something that was reported earlier this morning between Aave, Centrifuge, Circle, Coinbase, Base, their Credix, Goldfinch, and RWA.xyz. I guess a fairly leading protocol in RWAs, mainly because they've got the name. But yeah, so this coalition is really just more of a collection of people trying to adhere to a new layer of just being unified in what they want to bring uh, to the next frontier of what blockchain digital assets will look like. Interesting idea. Obviously, this isn't the first time that coalitions and whatnot have been created, but the fact that Coinbase has such a big footprint now into the crypto space, I do think this is an interesting move, specifically with some Lindier firms like Aave in particular, and looking at what Centrifuge and Goldfinch will be doing, moving forward. Centrifuge themselves have launched on Base and Arbitrum as a way to have RWA LPs Pendle finance on Arbitrum and Mainnet, also another source of RWAs where you can provide liquidity. So that'll be interesting. And also Mantle Layer 2, built on the OP stack, is coming out with exposure for Ondo's USDY. Ondo also being a real world asset provider. This was announced just before last week's 2049 in Singapore. So again, still the early stages of what we're going to see here. Obviously, we've been talking about RWAs forever, even as early as Iron Finance, right? Iron Finance wanted to bring those diamond dot synthetic assets. I know that's a smile on everyone's face. Where they were going to be going against the price of wheat, the price of gold, all these other assets that were out there, just to try and tokenize whatever they could. And you saw that specifically with protocols like Gains, where you're looking to find alternate sources of synthetic liquidity to try and tokenize and speculate on.
I take offense with something like USDC being brought up in the same sentence or the same segment as Iron Finance.
Iron
I think
Finance?
a lot of these are just, you call them renegade devs shooting from the hip, building random things, saying, "Oh yes, this is tokenized gold or wheat or whatever." When it's like there's no back end infrastructure to support that, or legal framework even attempted to be established in order to have that like product exist, and they're really were just capturing all the speculative money that was running in, and people were just playing Ponzi games, right? So I think that there perhaps is a space for more tokenized assets on chain, but right now, like, let's not get distracted, right? The thing that actually has product market fit is dollars and T-bills right now. Now, market conditions may change, and that might change, but I don't think that that much else is worth focusing too much on right now. It's primarily dollars and T-bills that people actually want on chain.
With regards to real world assets, correct?
Yeah, I don't like the term real world assets, to be honest, because it kind of insinuates that something on chain is not real and that something off chain is what is real. Where I think, like, over time, ideally you have the most trustless database of all time in being, Bitcoin or Ethereum as a blockchain network, like that is actually what's real, right? So I don't like the term real world assets. I like the term maybe like off-chain assets, or maybe just call them tokenized dollars, right? Or tokenized T-bills, right? That's what it is. So I reject the term real world assets.
There you go. He rejects the term real world assets. All right, that's all we got for you guys today. Obviously, thanks for joining us. I thought it was a pretty good discussion on a bunch of different topics. Obviously, we'll come back next week with a bunch of new ones. And just wanted to thank you all for your time. Again, check us out, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Keep them coming. If you have anything to say, comment, please. Continue to do so, and check out all of our videos that we're putting out. We're putting out a bunch of new content over the next couple months for you to check out. Find great value. Anything else you want to say, Django, before we head home?
Like, subscribe, notification bell, check out the most recent video. Relevant links will be in the description. Thanks, everybody.
Didn't even shill his friend tech keys. I see how it goes.
I'm not going to do that. Jeez.
Have a great day, everyone. 07. I'll see you later. Memento. Go Gators!